All right, everyone, welcome. Good Thursday morning. My name is Nick Reed. We do have a Heroes Breakfast tomorrow. We'll just kick things off. Talking about that, shall we? Just a few moments to remind you that if you are a veteran and you come out and you join us for a Friday Road Show at Scramblers, you are going to be getting yourself some free breakfast at 6A to 9A, thanks to the incredible folks at Warriors Journey. They'll actually be joining us for a bit tomorrow. Also, Delta Roofing and Air Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. And, of course, Scramblers. Couldn't do it without them, obviously. And they are, of course, also open for lunch. Just a reminder that you can get lunch at Scramblers. And in the evenings, the facility is available for usage. They can customize menus for you, and there's no fee for the usage itself. A lot of places, they charge you a fee in addition to, or the fee goes towards whatever food that you order. No need to worry about that. That fee when it comes to Scramblers. So you can inquire with them if maybe you have a small grouping of individuals that you need a place, a location, to have something to eat, to have a meeting. You can reach out to Scramblers for that. Yesterday, so Kamala Harris speaking before some economic forum, and as usual, part of the platform for Kamala Harris is telling you that she was middle class, which isn't actually really true anyhow. She lived a pretty privileged life. But she has no meaningful economic plan that is going to, in any way, shape, or form, help the middle class. In fact, it's doubling down on the failed policies of the current administration, of which she's part of. And they know this, which is why they don't go out there bragging about it. I mean, this is why they don't say, we're going to do more of the same, because they know that people are hurting. And that isn't a message that's necessarily going to resonate. Campaigning on, oh, you think it sucks now, just wait, isn't something that is going to necessarily work for the Democrat Party, so they have to instead say, my economic plans are, did you know that I was raised in a middle-class family with people who like to work on their lawns? Part of what she did say yesterday, I kid you not, was, quote, we just need to move past the failed policies that we have proven don't work. That is an exact quote. Yes. I suppose that there is some bipartisanship at play here, where she is acknowledging that we need to move past the policies that do not work. Yet another campaign theme handed to Donald Trump, along with Tim Walz last week or earlier this week, saying that we cannot take 4 more years of this. The combination of those two messages, no, we are on the same page. For people that might say, well, Republicans can't find anything that they agree with Kamala Harris on, now we have. We most certainly have. Joe Biden on The View yesterday throwing Kamala under the bus, claiming that all of his failed policies he delegated to her. We've got some of that audio, plus his claim that he believes that he was winning and beating Donald Trump. All the way up until he had his election overthrown, which brings us back to the question, why was it that the election, the Democrats' election, was overthrown? Why was his victory in 50 states overthrown? Because every reason that we've been given, we're then told that that's not the reason. The necessity of living in fantasy la-la land in order to be a Democrat is on full display daily. We've got some Kamala audio. She sat down with MSNBC, some more word salad stuff. Even Rule, who's an ally of Kamala Harris and did the sit-down interview, acknowledged on a post-interview that she did with Nicole Wallace that Kamala Harris really didn't answer questions. She didn't really answer those questions when it came to how are you going to do this and what happens with this, specifically with her economic plans, and this recognition that she really didn't answer the questions. Well, of course she didn't. This is what she does. Christy Fulnecki, she will be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. Our ABC Books Author of the Week is yet another former member of the CIA who has written a book about how the CIA has been weaponized against Donald Trump. This will be our third. I think it seems as if perhaps one of the authors was former FBI, but wrote of the weaponization of the FBI and the CIA. Another was former CIA, and this is yet another former member of the CIA. Increasingly, the good guys, if you will, that are coming out of these agencies, they're writing these books detailing how it is that the Democrats have weaponized these institutions against political opposition, not unlike, the KGB or any of these other police institutions that get used against political opposition, be it in Russia or Venezuela or wherever it might be. This is where we, of course, are now in this country. I noticed this morning in my inbox a publisher that was soliciting interviews for an author for another new book. This is how oftentimes we get the authors of the week. You get the publishers and they send out press releases. Hey, new book coming out. This is the author. This is what it's about. Would you like to have this individual on? And the one I saw this morning, it was yet another former CIA agent that has written a book about how it is that the Democrats have taken the CIA and turned it into a KGB-style, Stasi-style institution that is a weapon against the American people if they fall out of line with political opposition. So today we will have yet another one of those. That will be in the 8 o'clock hour, again, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 56. For your Friday, we do have a 50% chance of showers in the afternoon and then mostly cloudy with a high near 71. And on Saturday, mostly cloudy with a high near 75.
Kansas Territory Brewing Company. Keep watching for it to hit the shelves in the Springfield market. Billboards around, ads as well. Bradford Light, Pineapple Life Coach, two of their offerings. Brought to you by the good people at Show Me Beverage. And these are folks who at Kansas Territory Brewing Company just love craft beer and thought, let's do this out of their home of Washington, Kansas. And it's become so popular, looking to expand in Missouri, and you can keep, again, watching the shelves for that. Kansas Territory Brewing Co.com is the website if you want to check it out. Sarah Mars.
Yes.
Earlier this week, we talked about how Donald Trump was at a grocery store, and there was a gal buying groceries, and he's like, oh,
Yes.
I'll cover. Do you remember what I predicted would occur?
Yes, you did. You said that the Democrats were going to use that as him buying a vote.
Some liberals want to put Trump in jail for helping women pay her groceries is the headline. These people are so obvious.
You called it.
No, I did. Donald Trump stopped by a Pennsylvania grocery store Monday where he handed a $100 bill to a woman in line to help her cover the bill. Now the left wants to put him in jail for it. Such tweets sent out. Caught on tape, Donald Trump busted handing out money to voters to cover groceries at a campaign stop. Clear violation of election law. Another is saying, other than the fact it's literally illegal to give money to voters, just how grossly tacky is this guy handing out bills to the little people? Well, she didn't seem to mind. You know, it's amazing how the left, on one hand, portrays themselves as being so compassionate when it comes to other people's money. But when somebody utilizes their own money in order to help someone out, oh, that's tacky. It's almost as if really genuinely helping someone is to them viewed as an insult. Like, it's beneath them, and it's insulting to do such a thing. Another posting, caught on tape, Donald Trump busted handing out money to voters to cover groceries at a campaign stop, a clear violation of election law, wrote one left-wing activist account with over 1 million followers. Now, as usual, these people are pathetically predictable. I think that this is actually fantastic. All they're doing is highlighting the fact that Donald Trump is helping people with his own money, by the way. There's a couple of components to this that are pretty interesting and funny. One, this is the party that when, Joe Biden was campaigning for Warnock in Georgia, trying to get control of the U.S. Senate. His campaign theme was, if you vote for him, I will give you $1,600. This was the campaign. Telling voters, if you get this guy in office, if you vote for him, I will give you $1,600. Not of his own money, by the way. You and I paid for that.
A more broad term, think about student loans.
Oh, yeah.
Vote for Democrats, they'll pay for your student loans.
Yeah.
They'll pay them off.
Yeah. Well, or we'll force somebody else to pay them off. I mean, all they do is buy votes.
Well,
vote for me and we'll give you this. Vote for me, I'll give you that.
With the housing. What is it, like 25,000, 50,000? I can't remember.
Think the 25, I forget which her plan is. Yeah, I think, 25 or 50,000. Or that's all that it is buying votes. Vote for me, put me in office, and I will give you this. Donald Trump hands somebody $100 to help pay for their groceries, does a charitable thing, his own money, and, of course, what is the left? He should be in jail for this. He should be in jail for that. He needs to go to prison for it, for helping somebody. There is... Oh, also, in Georgia, you remember, and still to this day, the Democrats run around spreading the disinformation that it's illegal to give somebody water in line while voting in Georgia. because of evil Republicans. That's not illegal. What is illegal, and this is everywhere, it is to give somebody something of value, specifically at a polling place. You can't, but you would think that this doesn't happen, but it does. When I was working in Milwaukee, there were local campaigns that would brazenly, they would go hand out baked goods to people in line wearing campaign stickers. And a lot of times voters, particularly if they don't know what's going on with local races, they'll vote for that person. That's why they do it, because they know that it can make a difference, particularly in a tight race. And they do it knowing it's against the law, but they also know that because they're Democrats and they're in Democrat districts oftentimes, or, that they're not going to be held accountable for it. And so that, of course, is what was done down in Georgia. They were saying that they were just essentially solidifying what already was the law, but being more specific about it. That's saying that you cannot, be handing things out of value to people that comes from a campaign while they are waiting in line to vote. And, of course, that was portrayed as this horrible, awful regulation. How dare you? But now those same people, Donald Trump, as an individual, not as a campaign. Now, some people may argue, well, it's the same thing. I guarantee you that dollar came out of his own pocket, that $100. It didn't come out of the campaign funds. And all of a sudden, now that means that he should be put in prison. That means that he should go to jail. You know that every study that has ever been done, every study regarding charitable compassion, overwhelmingly Republicans, overwhelmingly outpace Democrats, both with money and their time. That Republicans and conservatives consistently they demonstrate through their actions that they are more likely to give money to people in need and give up their time to help people in need, whereas people on the left overwhelmingly are not. They want somebody else to do it. Unless it's Donald Trump and it might make him look good, then of course he deserves to be in prison. Have some Joe Biden audio coming up. Bidenomics, of course, punishing not so much to the uber wealthy, which is why you have the, even here in Missouri, the John Hams and the Andy Cohens that are supporting Lucas Kuntz for U.S. Senate. Or Jennifer Lawrence has announced she's supporting Kamala Harris. Oh, my gosh, that's shocking. Another rich celebrity. Can't believe that. It's just amazing. But for middle-income Americans, lower-income Americans, it's been very, very, very difficult. And vehicles, despite what Kamala Harris would tell you, and that they're just price gouging you, their costs go up too. Everybody's costs go up. It's trickle down. It's trickle-down economics. Not in a good way, but those increased costs, the increased regulations, the inflation, that trickles down. And sometimes that makes it very, very difficult or sometimes even impossible to cover a needed bill, a needed fix for a vehicle, and you need to fix the vehicle to get to work to make the money to pay for it, financing options are available with A1 Custom Car Care. You don't have to have the best credit in the world. Also, they understand that sometimes things happen, particularly, again, in this economy, that can cause dings to your credit. So don't automatically think, well, I won't qualify. You could very well, and then you can find out what that looks like and decide whether or not it's the right decision for you to make. A1 Custom Car Care for those car care needs. Joe Biden on The View yesterday regarding his decision to drop out.
I never fully believed the assertions that somehow there was this overwhelming reluctance of my running again. I didn't sense that. And although the polling, as I said, Biden's polling was different, the fact of the matter is my polling was about, we're always within range of beating this guy.
Yeah.
No, that's that. Did you love how they sit around and they're like, oh, yeah. No. No. This why he was forced to drop out. Biden himself has given 80 different reasons as to why he dropped out. And he, at the time, said that it was felt that he would not be able to beat Donald Trump, and that's why they had to overturn his election and then have the billionaire donors choose Kamala to run in his place. Now, here on The View, it's a different reality. No, he never. And in fact, he rejected the entire idea that there was some sort of desire to have him drop out. He said he never bought into that. And you know what? That could very well be true. A combination of his cognitive disabilities and the bubble that was created around him, he may genuinely have not understood the state of affairs in regards to his electability or reelectability. Part of the reason that could be the truth is reflected in his campaign director's statement post the overturning of that election, and that was that once the billionaire donors cut off money, they knew that was over. That was it for them. And so for Joe Biden, he could very well have believed that there was no movement within his party to overturn that election, that he was doing just fine in the polls, and that they were right there neck and neck, and he was really no different than Kamala is at this point. But it was the billionaire donors that ended up, getting Democrats to overturn the election of their voters and then implement Kamala Harris in his place. So, who knows? The View, apparently they know because they all nodded in agreement. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, we know that. Really? It would be nice if someone official would declare the official reason they overturned his election. It would just be nice so we could have it, so we could know what it is. Because if you, right now, and I think even some of you who are Democrats that are listening, maybe you haven't necessarily thought about this. I'm asking you in your head right now, what is the official reason? What's the official reason that the Biden election was overturned? What was it? I mean, according to him, you listen to him right here, it wasn't because he couldn't beat Trump. So that's out. It wasn't because of cognitive decline. That's what we've heard. Kamala Harris herself has not veered off claiming that he's as sharp as a tack. Now, his campaign said it was because the billionaire donors decided to dump him and instead tell Democrats, here's your new candidate, Kamala Harris. But outside of that, there really hasn't been any official reason that's been given. There have been reasons, but then they change. One day we're told it's this, and then the next day the same people say, no, it's not that. So it would just be nice if Democrats would come up with one official reason. I wonder what the history books will write. Will there be variations of reasons, or will the history books show? I'd be curious if Wikipedia even references a reason as to why. Whatever it is, you can guarantee that someone somewhere else within the Democrat realm will claim, no, that's not the reason why. This is the reason why. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed.
My 100th Mint commercial. No. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? Sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Anyway, it's still $15 a month, so whatever you're in. Sorry about all that production value.
Springfield Stock 104.1. Your first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 56. For your Friday, we do have a 50% chance of showers in the afternoon, and then mostly cloudy with a high near 71. And on Saturday, mostly cloudy with a high near 75.
Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line regarding the left wanting to put Donald Trump in jail because he donated a $100 to help a woman cover her groceries. Donald Trump needs to be put in jail because he's not in jail and he's talking to people. Is this very true? Because he's Donald Trump. Of course he doesn't, because he's bad. He's bad and evil. I want to play another bit of what people are humorously noting is throwing Kamala Harris under the bus, and that is Joe Biden. Yesterday on The View, essentially tying Kamala Harris to all of the administration failures.
Vice President, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
Okay, so she was delegated this stuff. Now, was she delegated all of it? All of the categories, according to Joe Biden, that she was so capable. Now, this is a message that is in contradiction to what oftentimes you hear from the Kamala Harris campaign when she's pressed on, well, why didn't you do anything? I mean, this is a theme that is constantly coming up as she's out there saying we need to move past the failed policies. We need to turn the page. And Trump, of course, made this point during the debate and continues on the campaign trail to say, well, why you're in the White House? And the response whenever surrogates, she never really has to answer these questions, but when surrogates are asked the question, like, well, she's vice president. I mean, she really didn't have the ability to necessarily shape policy. Well, according to Joe Biden, she did. According to Joe Biden, he gave her this stuff to do in every category: domestic policy, economic policy, foreign policy, that she's so absolutely capable and on the same page as him, evidently, that her hand is on everything. And she, she's indicated that herself in the past. Now, when it's inconvenient, it's a different story. I saw the day before yesterday, I think it was, one of the last segments with Brett Baer, which I rarely watch. And there were 3 panelists, if you will, discussing the issues of the day. And one of them was a Democrat strategist. And talking about the border, and Kamala's going to go to the border. This is a big gamble. She's going to the border on Friday. Many people are saying this is not a very good idea, but nonetheless, she's doing it. And the Democrat strategist once again referenced the fact that the border czar, she never was border czar, that was something that was made up by Republicans. And I'm like, how? I understand that if you are having a panel and Brett Baer, there are certain things that you let go for the sake of, all right, well, there are others on the panel that can disagree with her if they want to, or and you don't want to stop every time somebody says something that is necessarily untrue. But I laughed out loud. I thought, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Why would Republicans have given her that title? The title she began being labeled as border czar almost immediately into the administration. Why would Republicans decide to call her that? Now, if she had never been called that before, and then during the election cycle, when it became clear that the border issue was one that was very important to people, and the vast majority of Americans felt it was a total failure, and all of this sudden, out of the blue, that title began to be bantered around by Republicans in order to tie her to those failures, then yes, that would make sense. But why would Republicans have started calling her border czar 6 months into the administration? That was a title that was given to her by the media and by Democrats in order to bolster her, in order to make her seem legit. This is how competent she is. She has been given this mass responsibility. She is the border czar. She was given that title by allies in order to try and build her up and make her seem more credible. And the fact that Democrats today try and claim that Republicans gave her that title, it drives me nuts because there's no wiggle room. It's just such a lie. And to lie about things like that, I don't know what it is. I just listen to these. They're just disgusting. They're gross. And it's pathetic. It's pathetic because they're the ones who gave her that title, all to help her. And now that it didn't help her because she was a miserable failure when it came to the border, they want to not only pretend like it didn't happen, but blame Republicans for it. I don't know what it is. There's certain lies that just really, really aggravate me. That's one of them. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447-KSGF. Mayor Adams is expected to be arrested in New York. He, of course, is this is fantastic. This is just fantastic. He's the mayor of New York, and he has been indicted after campaign corruption investigation. His reasons that he is presenting out there officially as to why it is that he is being targeted are the reasons that the day that not him, but there was a day like a year ago, one of his campaign people had their home searched. I think it was by the FBI. And I said, this is why this is happening. And that's exactly what he's saying today. And it all has to do with the border. That coming up, I'm Nick Reed. Dear Evan Hansen at Juanita K, October 8th through 10th. Go to ksgf.com. You can register for your chance to win tickets for that. I want this is Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. I want the AI czar to interview the border czar. Circular word jumbo black hole. Yes, I forgot she was the AI czar too. Remember that she was given the job of saving the world from the potential devastation that AI could wreak upon us. I guess she must have gone ahead and taken care of that because I haven't heard much lately on it. I guess she fixed it. I forgot about the AI czar thing. Remember at one point she complained that she had too much to do?
Yes.
What does she think that being president you have less to do? Well, maybe she's just observed Biden and thought, I need to do
this.
I can do that. So you get up at 10 and then you call a lid at 10:15 and you go to the beach. I would much rather be president. So maybe that's when she realized that she needed the billionaire donors to anoint her the nominee. She saw how easy it was, according to Joe Biden's behavior. See, Adams' problem started the moment he blamed Biden-Harris for the immigration problem and said he was going to D.C. to get answers, and that is absolutely correct. You are the winner. I remember this because, as it happened, we talked about it. And this is what the mayor of New York is saying. Now, New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted after campaign corruption investigation. A Manhattan grand jury indicting New York Mayor Eric Adams on federal criminal charges, multiple sources familiar confirmed to Fox News. The details of the indictment remain under seal. Multiple sources have confirmed that the indictment could be unsealed as early as tomorrow. The FBI and Department of Justice are declining to comment on the matter, as it is unclear who Adams has retained as his personal attorney. Adams said in a statement, quote, "I always knew if I stood my ground for New Yorkers, I would be a target, and a target I became. If I am charged, I'm innocent, and I will fight this with every ounce of my strength and spirit." Oh, gosh, almost sounds like Donald Trump. The day Eric Adams was scheduled to go to Washington, D.C. to visit Capitol Hill in order to try and bring to light the problems with the border and that the havoc that it was wreaking upon his city, was the day all of this began. That day, he was en route when news came down that it was from his office or his campaign, I think it was somebody from the campaign, had their home, they were either arrested or their home was raided. It was something that required him to turn around. And that day was the day that it became clear Eric Adams was learning what happens when you defy the Biden administration, when you shine a light on the truth. It was not a coincidence that occurred, and he has been very in the view of the Democrats, the real big problem with the border in terms of the elections, and it really began to damage them, was when Eric Adams started making an issue of it. Because all of a sudden it wasn't Republicans making things up. You had Eric Adams, here's the mayor of New York City, saying, yeah, we have a real problem here. And now, you and I recognize that this problem existed well before Eric Adams ever started talking about it. But in their minds, him doing that risk legitimizing it. When Eric Adams came out here, he's a Democrat. New York City. And in their minds, it validated what Donald Trump has been saying all of this time. And it presented to the average American the recognition that this is a bipartisan issue, that Republicans and Democrats recognize that the border czar, Kamala Harris, under Joe Biden, have screwed this thing up royally, and real people are suffering for it. And the trip to Washington, D.C., and I want to say Adams was actually going to maybe visit the White House as well, but he was going to visit Capitol Hill as part of that. And it was done to draw attention to the problem even further. This was something that the media was well aware of. The Adams people told the media were going to be there, so there were going to be cameras. There was going to be a lot of attention paid, not to mention the fact that it was going to put a lot of congressional Democrats and Democrat senators in a very tough position, because they still, at that point, were portraying the border issues as something that Trump was making up, that the border was secure. Because remember, as incredible as it may seem, for a period of time, that's what the Democrats were claiming. The border was absolutely secure. And so all of a sudden, they're going to be getting visits from Eric Adams. Eric Adams is wanting some answers. He is going to be having conversations with them, and even if those aren't on camera, he's going to be talking about, well, here's the response I got. He was going to put them all in a very, very difficult position. Lo and behold, while en route, it began. The first raid on somebody within his circle, forcing him to turn around and cancel that. And what he is now saying is this is exactly why. Because of the border. Because I was calling them out. I have been drawing attention to the problem with the broken border. He knows. The whole point was for him to know. Now, that being said, Does that mean that the allegations against him are not true? No, of course not. They could be. He could be as guilty as sin of everything that is in the indictment, which is still sealed at this point. But he could be totally guilty. This is part of the problem with having a justice system that is a sword and shield for the establishment and for the Democrat Party. You say, but Eric Adams is a Democrat. Yes, but he became a threat to the Democrat Party by acknowledging the realities of his party's hand in the problem that we have on the border. So, just because you are one of the group, that doesn't mean that you aren't necessarily potentially going to be a danger to the power structure, to the party. And so that's what he became. Just like Donald Trump. And so when you have a justice system that is politicized and that is used as a sword and shield of the Democrat Party, and then here is somebody that clearly is creating a scenario or drawing attention to an existing scenario that could be damaging to the prospects of that political party continuing to stay in power, and then all of a sudden here comes the Justice Department in, you don't know whether it's legit or not. We have no way of knowing because the Department of Justice and the FBI have delegitimized themselves. We have no idea. Incidentally, this is why oftentimes corrupt institutions, let's say the FBI, for example, like having corrupt people in office because this is what they can hold over them. We would learn that the FBI was well aware of all of the money flowing secretly from Ukraine, from Russia, from China, from Belarus, from all of these countries, these nefarious actors. The FBI was very, very well aware. While Joe Biden was running for president, that Joe Biden was corrupt. And many people thought, why would they, are they so hardcore in terms of Democrats that they would rather have somebody in there corrupt than have Donald Trump in there? Corrupt people want other corrupt people in power because then they can do what's being done to Eric Adams. Pull out that poker chip when it's time. It benefits them. It gives them power. It allows them to control. It allows them, let's say, for example, the FBI to get a ridiculously unnecessary and massively expensive brand new facility. Because who's going to say no to the people who have the ability to throw elected officials in prison because they have dirt on them? Eric Adams, he just screwed up. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. And on, I believe this is MSNBC, the Biden-Harris Commerce Secretary.
Says it's just another lie. Like, how did we get here? Let's extinguish him for good. We have an answer. We have a remarkably talented candidate who is sincere, who's pragmatic, who's open. Let's just get it done.
All right, so extinguish him for good. Let's get it done. This is the Commerce Secretary for the Biden administration referencing Donald Trump. Extinguish, exterminate, get rid of, destroy. It has become very clear through their behavior that these people feel that they are so close to getting Trump killed. They can just taste their victory. And you can see this and hear this in their behavior. Instead of scaling it back, instead of saying, hey, listen, we know we've been using a lot of rhetoric, but you got to understand sometimes, it gets heated. It's not going to be the end of the world if Donald Trump wins the presidency. This is how we function as a country. Sometimes Republicans win, sometimes Democrats win. We've made it all this time. We'll continue to make it. We made it through 4 years. May not have liked it, but we made it through. Instead of doing that, they are taking the rhetoric level and they're amping it up. They're getting straight up to calling for his extermination, to extinguish him. Get rid of him, quote, for good. Those are her words. They are so close in their minds. They are so close to getting him killed. And in their minds, saving the world, saving the country, saving democracy, if only one of these people can. So they just got to keep amping it up, amping it up, amping it up. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. I want a great homeloan.com. If you have questions about financing, about interest rates, there are a lot of you that maybe have been given advice like, well, interest rates, sure, they've gone down, but they may go down more. You want to wait. You don't want to refinance now, or your interest rates even lower now. Then, it just don't take advice from people that are essentially getting their information from either the internet or even the news. As Anthony Carricker has pointed out, that even when it comes to business news in the media, they're about 2 to 3 weeks behind what it is that can be known and what is known by people like the Carricker team. So if you're seeing it on the news, even with these analysts who are experts, you're already a couple weeks behind. So if you know that at some point you are going to be considering either a refinancing or taking out a loan for purchasing or building a home, talk with them about what it is going to look like tomorrow and what difference the election will make, if it makes any difference, and what those possibilities could be. That way you have all the information and you can make the decision based off of having as much information as possible. And that starts at iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. We do have a Heroes Breakfast tomorrow. Reminder on that. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, our Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. It is yet another. This will be our third member of either FBI or CIA. This is a former member of the CIA, writing about how it is that that agency has been weaponized to go after political opposition, specifically, of course, Donald Trump. Increasingly, the good guys are getting out, writing books, trying to warn America about these agencies becoming a weapon against the American people who do not fall in line with the Democrat Party. And Christy Volnecki's here.
Yes.
What up?
I know about the weaponization
Yes.
of DOJ. I know that
Indeed.
very well.
Indeed. In fact, I'll start off with some audio here before we go to the news. MSNBC, they were in Michigan talking with blue-collar workers, and they wanted to get their thoughts on how January 6th was going to impact their vote.
Talk to me about your level of interest in the criminal charges and so forth.
February 6th.
January 6th.
So I remember that day. I know he was the standing president. I'm not familiar with the charges that are brought against him for that. I'm not following that charge or there's multiple court cases going on. I'm just not familiar with it.
I mean, that doesn't sound like it's going to be a factor in deciding who to vote for.
No.
Okay, so when I say January 6th, what do you think?
Oh, I just remember seeing it on the news, like all the riots and stuff. Don't really know what it was about or what happened, though.
How did it make you feel when you saw it?
I don't know. I don't really feel any way about it. People showed their emotion, I guess. Probably in the wrong way, but it happened.
I don't think that's what...
yeah.
Increasingly, we are seeing the media ask questions of average voters and not getting the responses they're hoping for. I bet that was shocking.
Upset, right?
But let me tell you something. This actually was... Now, you could argue this isn't necessarily the most scientific thing in the world, but I do think that there is something that could be taken from this. And you and I think, and not just specifically you, Christy, but just people listening, we follow this stuff, and I think rightfully so, become very concerned about the misinformation that's put out there about January 6th. I talked this week about the recent release of the interviews with Milley and Miller, anti-Trump people within the military, who, when the Inspector General talked with them and interviewed them, they fully acknowledge that Trump not only said we need National Guard, but said active troops up to 10,000 and told them, this was on January 3rd, do whatever it is you have to do in order to make sure that everything is safe. And they just refused to do it. They disobeyed orders. Yeah. And so for us who know the truth about what's going on, but we watch the news and the way that they lie about what happened and talk about insurrection, and part of the reason I get angry and bothered at that is because I think, man, average Americans who don't know any better, they see this. But when I hear this, it makes me feel a little better because, again, it's anecdotal, but they're like, I remember seeing some riots and stuff, but I don't yet.
Can't afford my gas. I mean, that's what they're going to be voting for.
And so the people who are going to vote on January 6th aren't actually voting on January 6th. They're people who hate Trump anyway. They just use January 6th as a weapon to try to rationalize why it is that they hate him and why he's bad for America. And so when you hear that anecdotal evidence of these blue-collar workers who are just almost, I mean, they're indifferent to it. They're like, I don't, the one guy said February 6th. He wasn't even sure of the date. I know.
Like,
and the other guy's like, I don't know. So,
him as a juror.
so,
Like,
and the other guy's like, I mean, I think some people were mad. I kind of remember that. It also, though, I think is a result of Democrats normalizing riots because of all of the, they have become something that is so prevalent in our society prior to January 6th with the Summer of Love and the George Floyd riots and, all of these. And Democrats normalized them. Democrats said this is like a civil rights movement. Kamala Harris was out there raising money to bail him out of jail. And it almost reminds me of like sexual harassment allegations when, Clinton, they normalized it. And then when Arnold Schwarzenegger was running for governor out in California, Democrats, they were like, well, he's been accused of sexual harassment. People are like, I thought we were, you told us, or, he had all these affairs, and you told us that was their private business. And Democrats normalized something and then expected when it was working against them for it to be a weapon, and people like numb to it. And I'm wondering if even the January 6th riots, that people in America became so used to seeing riots, even prior to George Floyd riots, but riots to take down Confederate flags, to take down that they're like, yeah, it was another riot. We kind of see these things all the time. What's the big deal?
It drives that reporter crazy is because they always ask those questions implying that Trump organized the whole thing.
Right.
So when they are like, I don't even know what it was, I'm sure that drives him crazy because we're like, no, he planned this and he organized this.
I just love the attitude that, like, I don't, whatever. I mean, I kind of remember something.
6th February? No, March?
We'll get weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
In the First Alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 56. For your Friday, we do have a 50% chance of showers in the afternoon and then mostly cloudy with a high near 71. And on Saturday, mostly cloudy with a high near 75.
Along with Christy Fulnecki,
Yes.
a new historic benchmark for this administration. At least it's been about 40 years since there has been a presidential candidate that has not agreed to attend the Al Smith dinner. Now, for those that don't, the Al Smith dinner, this is a charity fundraiser. It's done every year, and it is something that in election cycles, in particular, both candidates show up. Trump and Hillary were there. It's just something I think it's 40 years since someone has not done. And this is the
It's
one,
so funny, too.
and really, given that absolutely everything has become, so partisan, this has been the one holdout in which it's like, okay, bipartisanship, come together, Republican, Democrat. They kind of tell jokes about each other and everything and so forth. And Kamala has declined. And we all know why, because her people know that there's just no way she can handle a situation like that. She's not well, and Trump he's very at ease and comfortable in situations like that.
Yeah.
Trump is like Reagan in that one of the things about Reagan that set him apart, and this was recognized by both parties, he was comfortable in any setting. He just was, and that's because he was comfortable with himself, and he was confident with himself. So he could, whether it was in a suit with world leaders or out on the ranch or around normal people, and Trump's that same way. When he's Trump, he's Trump. Kamala is obviously the opposite. I mean, when you look at Trump going to a burger joint or a grocery store interacting with people, and then you look at Kamala Harris with a TikTok video and they go into a gas station, where are the Doritos? I mean, it's just all so awful and cringy and fake.
He's used to being attacked, like literally and figuratively. So, I mean, he is used to having people make fun of him and taking shots out of him. And so she's not used to that. And so, I mean, it would be very uncomfortable to be in a room where people are making fun of you for her because she's so insecure.
Cardinal Timothy Dolan, the Archbishop of New York, he had this to say regarding the situation.
Disappointed. We were looking forward to giving the Vice President an enthusiastic welcome. And we kind of confident that she would find this. She speaks very much about the high ideals and how it's good to get away from division and come together in unity and all. Well, that's what the Al Smith dinner is all about. We haven't given up yet. We're not used to this. We don't know how to handle it. This hasn't happened in 40 years since Walter Mondale turned down the invitation. And he lost 49 out of 50 states. I don't want to say there's a direct connection there. But so we're not used to this, and we're not giving up. Who's been a help to us, Lauren, is Senator Schumer and Governor Hochul. They both are working hard to see that they convince her to come.
So there's still a chance.
Yeah, and Senator Schumer said to me, he said, I don't think she made the decision. I think her schedulers are saying she can't make it. So we're not giving up. We hope she's there.
That's Timothy. He's really putting the screws to her.
I think it's great. When I first heard that, I thought, "Oh wow, I hope that prediction's true."
He is comfortable being relatively outspoken on certain political issues. Whereas a lot try to not. He's not abrasive in it, and he just has a personality that is a likable personality, so he can kind of get away with saying certain things that others it would seem very off-putting, but he's got a playful way about himself, and so those who are familiar with him.
But all these people there are going to be very comfortable with Trump too. I mean, he's a New Yorker. You know what I mean? So I mean, he's kind of
and like I said, he's natural in any setting.
In its element. But what possibly could you be doing with your schedule?
Well, she's just so busy. She's so busy.
Exactly.
Well, and in fairness, she is part of the administration that infiltrated the Catholic churches across this country with government agents to try to get people within the church to turn against and report on
so maybe that
parishioners. Are they called parishioners in the Catholic Church?
Yeah, parishioners.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, maybe she was afraid that Trump would take a dig at her over that.
Well, she's not busy
these all domestic terrorists here.
She's not busy working at the White House. That's what I thought you were going to say, because when you're president, you could be on the beach half the time. There's nothing really pressing that she needs to be at the White House. So
speaking of, so she did do an interview with MSNBC yesterday. We'll play some of that audio coming up with Christy Fulnecki. I'm Nick Reed. Kamala Harris yesterday sitting down with Rule is her I forget her last name, MSNBC, to talk about the specifics of her economic policies. Here's some of what here's some of what she had to say.
It's going to be through what we do in terms of giving benefits and assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars, and looking holistically at the connection between that and housing, and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner that includes prioritizing affordable housing for working people.
Did you get that?
What?
Well, you didn't understand that
Okay,
holistic approach?
Bus.
Well, that's because it's holistic. When you say it's holistic, you can throw any random thing in there you want. And well, I like buses. She does like buses.
I was part of local government. I did not really understand where the incentive is there. Okay, so I'm thinking transit.
She was asked essentially, where are you going to get all of this money? Particularly, now she's
going to write for free. Is that what
well, yeah, and so the go to for Democrats is we're going to make billionaires pay and corporate. Well, first off, and the numbers have been crunched that if you taxed all of the billionaires in this country at 100%, I think in 14 minutes that money's spent. 14 minutes or 12 minutes, it's something insane. So this idea that can pay for anything is absolutely ridiculous. Then they want to say, oh, we're going to tax corporations. Well, that's inflation because that cost gets passed on to us. We pay for that. But she was asked, but if Republicans are in power and they won't let you raise taxes, what are you going to do?
Expanding that child tax credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow? Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share. I am not mad at anyone for achieving success, but everyone should pay their fair share. And it is not right that the teachers and the firefighters that I meet every day across our country are paying a higher tax than the richest people in our country.
Which, of course, that also is a lie.
She just lied about every single thing she said.
It is a talent to be asked a question, not even answer it, but still lie. Like, if you're not going to answer the question, you don't even have to lie. But it's as if that's just instinct. So, I got to throw a lie in there.
And then you have a reporter that doesn't even say, well, that's not even a specific plan. Well, and I don't understand what this, if you go back to what she was saying about your holistic whatever, she doesn't know, where job creation comes from, obviously. So she's thinking that they're going to give money to a local government and then they're creating jobs. I'm not exactly.
It doesn't make
sense.
Well, of course
like
not.
even and what a lame reporter. I know she's a total lib, but to not even ask any follow-up questions like, do you know how jobs are created? I think we need to start. That's number one.
Now, to the credit of her buddy there, the journalist, she gave an interview about the interview, and she acknowledged that she didn't really answer the questions.
I know.
Well, of course she didn't, because there is no answer. I mean, from her, there's nothing.
Well, okay, you could say this. I mean, I guess you could argue, I've created jobs when you have like 3 million like federal government jobs or something.
Yeah, they have created a lot of government
crazy,
jobs.
Like a lot of government jobs. So, that's what I was thinking. It's kind of frightening if you think and not everybody obviously that works for the federal government's bad. I mean, and then you have military, but like all the civilians and all of those people hopefully don't think self-preservation and vote for her. I mean, it's kind of, and then you add in the local governments, and then, I mean, that's kind of scary. But whatever she just said does not make any sense at all, and for people not even to hold her accountable.
We've got more audio coming up, including she was flat out asked, "Should people trust you?" And I love her answer on that. More with Christy Fulnecki coming up. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast. From Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 56. For your Friday, we do have a 50% chance of showers in the afternoon and then mostly cloudy with a high near 71. And on Saturday, mostly cloudy with a high near 75. Wanted to read a review from my friends over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Corey wrote, "We absolutely loved working with the Pyramid Roofing Company. My business is my pride and joy, and I will only work with quality contractors, and I'm glad that I found the Pyramid Roofing Company. I highly recommend them." And that is exactly what you get with the Pyramid team. From your home to your business, they really do understand that you work hard for everything that you have. And when something goes wrong with your gutters or your roof, they really do want to make those repairs as simple as possible. Now, the Pyramid team, they offer free roof inspections, and they also offer discounts on new roof installs for our military and our first responders as well. And with that weather, it's starting to cool down. Contractors, they are starting to catch a break, so you can expect a quick turnaround. So if it is time to schedule that free roof inspection, whether it be for residential or commercial, the Pyramid Roofing Company, they have definitely got you covered. Now, you can give Josh a call today, and you can find all of that contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Kamala Harris's economic plan, she has on a number of occasions said that the reason prices are high, it's not because of her economic policies, it's not because of inflation, it's price gouging. There's been this vast conspiracy amongst every business owner. It have to be every business owner because every business has had inflation, that they got together and decided that they were going to jack up prices in order to gouge people. The fact that none of this is leaked out is pretty amazing, other than obviously she is privy to this conspiracy. And, you know, even some of her surrogates, when they're asked, I played audio yesterday. It was a Democrat strategist from Florida being asked, well, is price gouging even going on? And she said, well, I'm not privy to that information.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean you're not privy to it? We're told that's the whole reason that the prices are high is because of price gouging. Here she's asked about that by MSNBC.
I agree with you. You said you want to take this on by going after those who engage in price gouging. Yeah. But as somebody who supports free markets, who's a capitalist, how do you go after price gouging without implementing price controls? Because once we get in this zone, people start to get worried and they say, I don't know what she stands for.
So just to be very frank, I am never going to apologize for going after companies and corporations that take advantage of the desperation of the American people. And as Attorney General, I saw this happen. In the midst of an emergency, whether it be an extreme weather event or even the pandemic, we saw it. Where those few companies, not the majority, not most, but those few companies that would take advantage of the desperation of people and jack up prices. Yeah, I'm going to go after them. Yes, I'm going to go after them. And that is part of a much more comprehensive plan on what we can do to bring down the cost of living, including housing, including the everyday needs of the American people.
So I guess there's price gouging in housing now, too, because she said that's going to... Now, a couple of things here. One, and this is, again, what I would do if I was a journalist. When she says, hey, I saw it as Attorney General, we've seen it during COVID, where did we see it? What businesses did this?
Yeah.
I'd like to see the examples.
Yeah, are you talking the businesses that were closed because of your policies in California?
Yeah, and if you say you saw this as Attorney General in California, see, what she's trying to suggest is that she's taken care of this before. What businesses, when you were Attorney General of California, are you talking about, and what did you do?
Yeah.
Now, I suspect the answer is none. She's just allowed to get away with this. But then she also tries to claim, she tries to have it both ways. On one hand, the reason that there is inflation everywhere is because of price gouging. But then she says, well, it's just a very few. The vast majority aren't. Well, then why is it if the reason that prices are high is because of price gouging, and prices are high everywhere, then that means you're saying price gouging is everywhere.
But, you know, have you noticed that she hasn't talked about that? I mean, she was just asked about that,
Right.
but she has not talked about that since she first came out with it because it was so unpopular.
Well, and not just to the average, because people know. Now, you're going to have some left-wingers that are trained to blame business and they're, the job creators out of the gate, and those that are just looking for a reason to support her. But it's also very scary, I think, to a lot of business owners to hear that. Because they're victims of this too. So imagine this. You are a business, and my wife runs a business, so I know. And we're in the business of helping businesses. We do advertise, so we talk with them all the time, and we know that it has been very, very, very difficult for them to try and navigate through the inflation issue. That they have had to make very difficult decisions, whether that is laying off people or having to raise prices on consumers. Some haven't been able to make it. So imagine you're put in that position, and then the people who put you in that position tell the American people that you're price gouging, that you're the bad guy when you're the victim of it. The left loves to blame the victims. They make people victims, and then they turn around and blame them.
Well, yeah.
And so you can only imagine, and it's not just business owners, but people who run businesses, people who understand, who are doing the purchasing and see that the prices are going up, so they have to raise their prices. And then to have this piece of trash come along, and Biden did it too. Biden did it during the State of the Union, saying all they have to do is lower their prices and pay people more, and then everything will be solved. And you can only imagine how frustrating that is.
Small business. I have employees, and it's very frustrating because, I think that was the appeal of Trump, because you do not have business owners that are running the country. I mean, you could talk about whatever you did as attorney general, as a lawyer, or whatever, but you are not making payroll, and you are not like sweating that every 2 weeks. And for them to lecture the businesses that they shut down during COVID, that they put through all of this, it's ridiculous. And I hate these stupid reporters that, these softball, like, I love how she led up to, and Oprah did the same thing. Well, you are a capitalist. You are for free markets.
Okay. Thanks for setting that.
Okay, you might as well just, speak for her, because she can't speak for herself. I mean, the whole thing is totally pathetic. But, and you just hear her answer. She has no clue what is going on. I was thinking.
Well, and then, in the same breath, says that she's going to raise, if she's president, she's going to raise taxes on businesses. So you're going to make it even more expensive for them to do. And then, of course, turn around and, again, businesses, if you have less money, or part of your budgeting, you have money that comes in, that comes from the consumer. The products, the services that you sell, that is what pays the bills. And so the bills get higher, tax bill gets higher, you have to have more money come in order to cover that, which means either cutting somewhere, personnel, or you raise the prices again, and then people like Kamala Harris come along and make you the bad guy, claim that you're just doing that in order to screw people over.
And it's not only, people have, common sense, and obviously, like, we're talking about business owners know that she's full of it. But Grant Cardone is a real estate developer. He's a pretty outspoken Trump supporter. He used to be a Democrat. And he always goes off on Mark Cuban's, like, blind support of Democrats. But, him and a lot of other, large business owners are saying she has no clue what she's talking about. What is she going to do?
That idiot, Mark Cuban is an idiot. And I know, and just because he, in the dot-com boom, made a lot of money doesn't mean he's not an idiot. He actually yesterday, or he made a posting saying, Trump is a salesman, but Kamala Harris is a great CEO. What the hell has she been a CEO of? She's never run anything. She's never even, anyone could say, I don't even think she's had a
private sector.
And the only thing that she ever tries to demonstrate she's been in the private sector, she said she worked at McDonald's, which that apparently is a lie. McDonald's has no record of her ever working there. So I saw somebody post, imagine your record is so pathetic you have to lie about working at McDonald's, and here you're running for president of the United States. She has nothing.
Reporters ask her specific questions. What do you mean by the corporate tax rate? What do you mean by... I would say, do you know how high payroll taxes are? Do you know about all the stupid 100 forms you have to fill out? And if you miss one, you have interest and penalties. And there's so many things you can ask her. And of course, the big IRS, endorsement of her. Right. That's something to brag about.
Yeah, Christy Fulnecki with us. Coming up next, she was asked, can people trust you? I love her answer on that. Chrissy Fonecki is with us during the
Yes.
sit-down pre-recorded MSNBC interview that Kamala Harris did. She was asked, can people trust you? Now, I want to preface this by saying, have you ever seen, whether it's in a movie or in real life, particularly if you have a teenager, that like, you're leaving for the weekend and you know they're going to throw a party, but they're like, no, I'm not. And you're like, can I trust you? And the way that their voice gets high, like, yeah, right? I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. So that in mind, here's the question and answer.
Yes.
I mean, can that sound any more like somebody who knows she's lying? Yeah.
You know, those little people in her head are freaking out right now. What do I say? What do I say?
Sure, I trust me. Absolutely.
She's like hitting the panic button in her head.
I want to play one other bit of audio. This is actually at an economic forum that she was speaking at, and I feel as if I always am comparing things that come out of this administration to The Office, but it is because The Office at the time, you know, it was written in a way in order to highlight absurdities, just extreme absurdities. But those absurdities are becoming the norm, which is why so many things are comparable. And there was an episode of The Office in which there was a new CEO and all of the branch managers are called to New York in order to give a presentation on what's going on in their market. And Michael Scott is one of them. Do you remember this? Do you watch The Office?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so they're supposed to, you know, talk about the revenue and what they're doing, and it's a business report to the new CEO so he can get an idea of what's going on in each of the markets. And Michael Scott makes instead it's just a video in which he goes around the office and it's got I think U2 as the background music and just talking about how great the employees are, and you know and at the end it's like, what was that thing? So that is what I was thinking of. This is what Kamala made me think of as she was talking to the Economic Forum about the economic policies of what would be her administration.
Guard that spirit. Guard that spirit. Let it always inspire us.
Let it always be the source of our optimism, which is that spirit that is so uniquely American. And let that then inspire us by helping us to be inspired to solve the problems
Just inspire one
that
more time.
so many face, including our small business owners.
That was, I just
was so
immediately
pathetic.
thought of that video that Michael Scott, where there was nothing whatsoever to actually do with the business, with the numbers he got, but it was just all about, you know, the inspiration of it all. And but
That's so embarrassing.
it is embarrassing.
I'm embarrassed.
If
as
I
a-
were
I'm
somebody-
embarrassed as a woman.
If I
that
were,
she's
you
even
should
running.
be. You
I'm
should be.
totally embarrassed as a woman.
You should be embarrassed as a woman that there is a
Yeah.
double-digit lead she has amongst women voters.
I know, and I'm
What
embarrassed.
is wrong with your type?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed as a lawyer that she's actually a lawyer, and that she cannot even talk about the specifics of what she's going to do.
I like
mean-
how some in the room applauded. If I were somebody that, like a normal person,
Right,
in there,
I
I'd
mean-
be like, what is going on here?
This is-
What are you
this-
applauding?
This is what happens.
She's saying
It's
nothing.
like a cult. I mean, she's like a cult leader. Because are you not listening to what she's saying?
Be inspired, and then we'll inspire the inspirers to further inspire the inspiration.
She's totally, number one, obviously not authentic. So you can't believe her. And then number two, I know why they're doing this is because after the Republican convention, how they talked about the American dream and how they were positive. So they probably were like, oh, yeah, you have to be positive and say this stuff. Well, no, you also have to be specific and talk about what you're going to do, not that just whatever she just said. I don't even understand.
Well, even that, the whole inspirational, because, and she says, oh, I just, America. This is the same party that tells us we have to have DEI because we're such a horrible racist country. These are the same people that tell us that our entire system is based on greed, where every business owner out there is trying to screw over the average American and by price gouging. These are the same people that say that we have to have affirmative action because we are racist. That our entire justice system is systemically racist. So on one hand, they go out there and campaign on what a piece of crap, worthless country that we should be ashamed of ourselves, and that we're built upon slavery, but then go out and talk about, I just think I have faith in what we are and who we do, and we're just the most amazing country ever. Like, which is it?
Well, it depends
Which
on whether
is
you're
it?
running for office or not, right?
Are we the worst country in the world, or are we the most inspiring country in the world? Can we pick a lane?
She's been talking about the past few weeks this inspiring whatever she's talking about in her word salad that we can't understand. So that's just to get elected. I mean, all the negative stuff, you do hear it, but I mean, you hear all this other whatever this is. I don't know, but just the blind leading the blind, but I mean, for people to clap, especially, you should be ashamed if you're an economist and you're sitting there and you clap at whatever she just said.
Ocasio-Cortez, she got a degree in economics.
They give that out at the bar.
Apparently, of course, this is a whole nother subject matter, but the travesty of our university systems in this country today. They're just indoctrination centers, and that, I mean, when you can have people that are clearly, they demonstrate they have no concept of particular subject matter, but they can be like, well, look, I got a certificate that says I'm an expert.
The Democratic Party are full of a bunch of crazies now. I mean, it has become, and that's what I mentioned. Do we still have time? I have to mention.
Oh, well, here, let me take a quick break, and then we'll continue on with Christy Fulnecki. I'm Nick Reed. Hey, everyone, it's Chrissy Fulnecki. So you're talking about crazies?
Well, yeah, but my point was that earlier I mentioned on Gutfeld's been really hilarious, and but Jillian Michaels was on last night, and I guess I didn't realize. I just assumed that she was liberal, but she actually, I guess, is totally, she's seen the light. So
I could tell you what may have done it.
Oh, really?
She was railed on because a couple of years ago, I think it was, she was on a podcast with someone and they were talking about different artists, and Lizzo came up or something. And I think it was the podcast host had talked about her daughter and like what a role model she is. And Jillian Michaels, who health is her thing, was like, well, I don't really, know. But like in terms of health, that it's not. And I mean, they just railed on it because, again, we're anti-science today, that we celebrate things that should not be celebrated. And you are supposed to, I guess, embrace unhealthy lifestyles in some capacity. It just depends on whatever is popular with the left. But that's where I don't know that necessarily altered her course. But in terms of public discussions, that was, as best I could tell, the first time that she had said something that the left then piled on and demonized.
Yeah, I mean, a number of issues. She seemed pretty conservative to me, but she had said, "Okay, I'm going to put my hat on." When I voted Democrat my whole life. She said Joe Biden was never our pick. She's like, he was a racist. He was the one that we all hated, and so she said for them to gravitate towards him, and then pick Kamala that none of us had voted for. She said even as a Democrat, she's like they totally left us because he was, somebody that didn't. Hold the ideals of the Democratic Party. And then they just still went with them.
Last week, Nancy Pelosi was on a program in which it was brought up that she didn't go through the process. And Nancy Pelosi just flat out said that she did. She went through the open primary process and won. I mean, but there is no lie they will not tell.
But the good thing is that, I mean, you do have people, as you see, the Democrats leaving their party that are thinking, okay, something's wrong with this. So, I mean, at least people are thinking through it. And yes, you have Republicans that are going to Democrats, but I mean, the people that are going of both parties that are the elitist, they're the ones that are going to vote for Kamala. So, and then you have everybody else, you have the people, and that's us.
There's not been any presidential race in which there's such a distinct divide between the two parties, one that is for the elite establishment, the other for the working class. This is not a Republican-Democrat. This is not a Republican-Democrat election. This is why Kamala brags about having these establishment Republicans. I mean, she said she was honored to have Dick Cheney support her. When you have – so the Republicans that are crossing the aisle for Kamala Harris – are the establishment, uber, wealthy, connected.
Elitist,
The Democrats that are crossing the aisle for Donald Trump are Teamsters, are UAW workers, that tells us all that we need to know, that this is not, more than any other election, this is bipartisan in the sense that it's not Republicans here, Democrats here. You have a lot of crossover. But I think that it's just very telling that the crossover for Trump are hardworking blue-collar workers, and the crossover that Kamala is getting are Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, establishment Republicans. Yeah. And you know what? I'm fine with that. And the Republicans should, as a party, embrace that.
I think it's great.
And if I were Trump and J.D. Vance, I would note that. I'd be like, listen, we got a lot of swapping going on here, and we are more than happy to take the blue-collar workers, and Kamala Harris can continue to be honored to take the Dick Cheneys of the Republican Party.
Yeah. And he kind of says some of that during his rallies, but, the big thing is that we have to show up and vote. When Trump was on Gutfeld, it surprised me when he was saying the evangelical vote that many of them do not vote. And he said if they just would go and actually vote, we would win by a landslide. And gun owners. I was so shocked he brought that up. I mean, that's not, I don't think I've ever heard that before.
I hadn't either, but yeah, those numbers bear out. And I think part of the reason that there's a lower percentage of Christians that vote than maybe were thought is because the Democrats have frightened churches into keeping their mouths shut, threatening to take away tax-exempt status if they wade into it. Now, of course, they can, as candidates, can show up at churches and preach from the pulpit. That's perfectly fine. But if you are a conservative and you express conservative values, they'll sick the government on you. Christy Fonecki, is always a tremendous pleasure. And
that's why Christians should vote.
Yes. Right. Absolutely. There you go. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. We have Author of the Week coming up next. It's another former CIA agent blowing the whistle on the weaponization of that agency, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Springfield's Talk 1041. My name is Nick Reed. Tomorrow we do have a Heroes Breakfast. If you are a veteran, love for you to join us at Scramblers. Scramblers, along with Warriors Journey, incredible organization. Also, Delta Roofing and Air Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Gonna buy you a free breakfast. It's that simple. All you gotta do is come out and join us. That's 6A to 9A, though, of course, they are open through lunch as well. But that free breakfast for veterans tomorrow from 6 until 9. Coming up, we do have Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. There is an increasing number of people that have worked, particularly with the FBI and the CIA, that are trying as best as they can to warn the American people that the Democrats have weaponized these institutions in order to target political opposition. And while Trump obviously gets a tremendous amount of that focus, it's everyday Americans as well. I mean, this is the police state that the Democrats have created. And this weaponization is something that this is what the KGB was. You know, we so many of us grew up hearing about the evils of the KGB and how this was this sort of police, law enforcement, federal, in our terms, policing institution that was used in order to monitor and to go after political opposition and make sure that people were in line. And that is what has become of the FBI and the CIA. And numerous books continue to be written. We've had 2 authors regarding this, both from those institutions. This will be a third. In my email inbox, I had from a publisher information about an upcoming book from another former CIA agent writing about this police state weaponization at the hands of the Democrats. And, you know, it's just remarkable that so many average voters out there who are Democrats who used to portray, particularly during the Bush administration, that they were turning this country into a police state because libraries would know what books you checked out, and that they fully are on board with a political party that is using these institutions to go after political opposition that they fully supported. And it means one of 2 things. These are either citizens that are convincing themselves just to ignore it, or they have totalitarian components themselves all along, and they've been lying to themselves and others when they talk about freedom and free elections. And when they act as if Donald Trump is a dictator, they're lying. They know that they are the ones that are operating in that fashion. So we'll have yet another coming up with our Author of the Week here in just a couple of moments, former member of the CIA, to talk to us about those dangers. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 56. For your Friday, we do have a 50% chance of showers in the afternoon, and then mostly cloudy with a high near 71. And on Saturday, mostly cloudy with a high near 76.
And I'm Nick Reed. It's Thursday, which means it's Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone here in Springfield, just south of Kearney. Our author today, Joseph Sweeney, a veteran CIA lawyer who worked on high-level espionage investigations and prosecutions, general counsel for 25 years in support of a broad spectrum of intelligence operations all over the world. And his book is Dangerous Injustice, How Democrats Weaponize DOJ to Protect Biden and Persecute Trump. And one, thank you for joining us this morning. But two, you are this year the third person in your capacity to some degree that has written something of this like, kind of a warning about the weaponization of our system, specifically against Trump. And, the frequency with which we see these warnings coming out, on one hand, it's a frightening example of how clear things have become. But, it's a sad state of affairs where we are today as people begin to, for good reason, doubt our institutions. And I know it's a broad question, but before we get into the specifics of your book, I mean, what happened? I mean, how is it that an institution like the CIA ends up where it is today?
Well, what I found in researching for my book was that the way we got to where we are, and I traced it all the way back to Trump's first campaign in 2016, is just how the Democratic Party just infused their members with hateful rhetoric. And these people became so brainwashed that those who were in positions of power in government, and I mean the career people, not just the political appointees, they all came to be of a mindset that the ends justified the means. And then they just perverted any authorities they had to assist their party in what was at the time a political assassination of Trump, and which is now, manifested into actual assassination attempts of Trump. But that's what it comes down to. Just the entire political party has come to believe their own hateful rhetoric, and that it then justifies doing anything to get rid of Trump.
It's very bothersome because it's not only in the institutions. I mean, it trickles down into our culture. And, we've talked about this on the show that oftentimes you ask, or the media, they'll go around and they ask Trump supporters, or people post why they like Trump or why they support Trump. And, it's oftentimes, sometimes bumper stickerish, but positive, making the country great again because I love America, or it is about meaningful things like securing our border. But people that aren't supporting him, it's generally because he's evil. He's a dictator. His followers are dangers to democracy. And so that it sounds to me like what you're saying is that is something that has also infiltrated the institutions, that perspective.
Yeah, and I dedicated an entire chapter of my book to that very point, because what I found was, and this was, in the lead up to Trump's first presidency, hopefully there will be a second. So this is going back to like 2015, 2016. The conversations I was having with my friends and family and neighbors, most of whom were Democrats. I live in D.C. D.C. voted 92% for Joe Biden. I'm the only conservative in my entire neighborhood. But what I found with these people is that they just became so enamored of the hateful rhetoric. And it was always just like you said. Did you hear what Trump did? Did you hear what he said? And I would start questioning them. And it was clear that Trump hadn't actually said what they thought he said.
Right.
It was just the hateful propaganda outlets, and they were just eating it up, eating it up and eating up. And they came to just feed off the hatred to a point that they needed it. And it was, it's a very interesting psychosis.
I think to the average person, it's clear the different treatment between Democrats, Republicans, specifically Trump and Biden. But we did have the opportunity to see an apples and apples situation in a lot of ways. We're so used to saying, can you imagine if Biden, or, if you imagine if Trump. But when it came to the classified document situation, you had this raid of former President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago. And then all of the rhetoric and the seriousness of it, the weightiness of how dangerous it was what he did. And then, oopsie daisies, we find out that Biden also is in this situation. So we were provided the opportunity to see the treatment of these two cases very similar in fashion. And I know that's that juxtapositioning is a focus in your book. Talk about that a bit, if you would.
Sure. It was the raid on Mar-a-Lago that started me researching and writing, because just a little bit about my background, I specialized in federal prosecutions that involved classified information. And so I did a lot of terrorism and espionage cases, prosecuting actual spies. But I also worked on cases where high-level government officials got caught mishandling classified information and were at least investigated and maybe prosecuted. There's only 4 of those cases in our nation's history, and I worked on 3 of those 4 cases. And I go into great detail on these in my book, but I'll spare you that for now. But so I had a lot of background with these types of cases, and perhaps more background than any other person in the history of the United States. And so I started digging as soon as I saw the raid on Mar-a-Lago. And what I found when the FBI affidavit was finally put on the public record, and it was heavily redacted, but there was enough there for me to see what was going on. The FBI misrepresented the law. They twisted facts. I could not believe what I was reading, and I could not believe that the home of a former president could be raided on such a thin legal veneer. And this was not a minor raid. There were 30 armed FBI agents who were authorized to use deadly force. Now, as I was researching, and with every stone I turned over, I found more and more malfeasance on the Biden administration, where they were obviously going after Trump to target him unlawfully by twisting laws and twisting facts. Then, as you mentioned, Biden got caught. And so I started digging into that case. And what I found was, with every rock I turned over, all the Biden administration, and I'm talking FBI, DOJ, the National Archives, they were all bending over backwards to cover up Biden's malfeasance, the extent of which has not been discussed on the public record. He had, by my count, at least, and we don't know a total because it hasn't been given to us, but at least 135 classified documents in his house, in his downtown D.C. office, and they spanned 5 decades. This man was hoarding classified documents for 50 years. And yet, you look at the charging decisions, and they just make no sense. And anyone can see that, any reasonable person, but you would need my experience to be able to see the depth of the disparity. And that's what I lay out in my book, because they came up with every excuse they could not to prosecute Biden, who, by the way, in their investigation, they discovered an audio tape where Biden was talking to a ghostwriter, where Biden's coming up from his basement, and this is while he's a private citizen, by the way, February of 2017, and he says to the ghostwriter on tape, "I just found all the classified stuff downstairs." Right? That's a quote. Now, to get around that, normally a prosecutor would call that a taped confession, and it would be the star piece of evidence against a defendant. But in this case, the prosecutor said Biden was probably too old and senile at the time to even remember that he had just found all the classified stuff downstairs, and he probably forgot immediately. That was February 2017, 3 years before Biden even became president. And to excuse that taped confession, they said it was just his memory. He was too old and too senile, which is just unbelievable.
Formerly of the CIA, or author of the week, Joseph Sweeney, the book Dangerous Injustice, How Democrats Weaponize DOJ to Protect Biden and Persecute Trump. In the beginning, before Biden was caught, the narrative was about how dangerous it could be, that some foreign country, I mean, they made it sound like he had documents laying around the hotel and that any person could have possibly gotten a hold of this, and there was top secret information from Iran, and just the fact that he had it in an unsecured area was what was so dangerous. Well, then we learned Biden had these documents in his garage and all over the place, and then the real sin, we were told, was that Trump didn't cooperate. That was the sin, and the difference was Biden actually, he cooperated. He did it. In fact, it was him who almost turned himself in, the way that they talked about it. What's your response to those claims?
Yeah, I go into this in great depth in my book, and it's one of my favorite parts. I call it the myth of cooperation, because Biden did not fully cooperate. When documents were originally found in his office in the Penn Biden Center, none of his people called DOJ or the FBI, not his personal attorneys, not the White House counsel's office, not even NARA. It was the NARA Inspector General, which is a separate independent entity that eventually, a couple days later, notified DOJ. Also, during the investigation, which, by the way, there was no legal compulsion, no subpoenas, no searches, they actually permitted Biden's private attorneys to search Biden's homes while there was an open FBI investigation. That's probably only happened one other time in history, and that was Hillary Clinton's case, which I also worked on and which I talk about in depth in my book. But even when they finally did search Biden's house, the FBI, and this was after they let Biden's private attorneys rummage through the crime scenes, they found top secret documents in Biden's possession. Biden did not let the FBI take the documents. He did not grant consent. Instead, he sent a White House lawyer, Richard Sauber, up to his home in Delaware, and Sauber, the White House counsel's office, seized the documents from the FBI, and they kept them for days. So I could never think of another incident in American history where a White House lawyer inserted himself into the chain of custody for a piece of evidence. Biden also refused to answer questions from the special counsel. It's right in the report. It's buried in there. But Biden was permitted to refuse to answer relevant questions. That is not cooperation. And I give many other examples in my book of where Biden was not cooperating. And even when he did cooperate, it was with a process that did not follow typical investigative strategies and was designed by Biden's own administration to protect Biden.
I think we're talking with our author of the week, who's formerly of the CIA, Joseph Sweeney's book, Dangerous Injustice, How Democrats Weaponize DOJ to Protect Biden and Persecute Trump. So many of us who actually pay attention to what's going on as best as we can, we see this lawfare, as it's called, these different cases in which even those who want Trump thrown in prison oftentimes can't explain what the charges are or, the process of all this. But it's left a lot of people, including myself, feeling as if our judicial system is a crapshoot. Like you may get a fair trial or you may not. And what really concerns me is the recognition that you're always going to have a level of incompetence or corruption, but you're defined by how you deal with it once it's discovered. And I like to think once upon a time when exposure occurred at an injustice or due to an injustice, that we as a society demanded that be corrected. But now they're just brazen, it seems to me. They don't care if people recognize. I mean, it's almost as if they are flouting the fact that, oh, yes, we know what we're doing here, but we can do it. Is there any hope, particularly with cases against Trump or any other high-profile political cases, that our judicial system can act in a fair manner any longer?
I think that is a very good question, and I wish I could give you a positive answer and say, yes, this could absolutely be fixed, but it's a difficult road to hoe. Our judicial system has become so politicized. To call it a crapshoot is generous. It's a crapshoot where the dice are loaded for certain throwers. Now it may be that that's always going to be the case, right? Any justice system, it is implemented by human beings, and we are all to some extent or another flawed. And so a justice system will never be perfect. And powerful and wealthy people will always be able to take advantage of those imperfections. But we can say this, we certainly have to try harder, right? We certainly have to try harder, and we can do better. We will never achieve perfection, but we can absolutely try harder. I dedicate a whole chapter in my book to solutions, things where practical solutions that could be implemented and which I think would help eliminate political bias. We'll never completely get there, but there are a number of things that we could do and should do.
Do you think that if Trump does get reelected, he will be able to, quote, clean house in a way that can at least start to make a difference with this? Or is it so cancerous that no matter who he gets rid of and replaces, that it's just too embedded in order to make a meaningful change?
You know, the swamp is deep and the swamp is broad, and I give many examples of it throughout my book. But I do believe that if Trump is elected again, that there are a number of things he could do to at least help drain it and to shrink it. Will we ever eliminate it? Probably not. That's probably just too of a utopian ideal. But that doesn't mean that things couldn't be done. And again, I give her a number of examples in my book of things that could be done, and I think they would have impact. One of the most important ones is just to put political appointees in power who have strong moral codes and who are dedicated to transparency to the American public. You know, the exact opposite of people like we have in power now, like Alejandro Mayorkas. And so that one thing alone, just picking good people with strong moral codes and strong backbones and who are dedicated to transparency, that one thing alone would go a long way to eliminating bias because they would not permit it. And where they saw it, they would stomp it out.
Our author of the week, Joseph Sweeney, formerly of the CIA, and again the book, Dangerous Injustice, How Democrats Weaponize DOJ to Protect Biden and Persecute Trump. And you can get this book along with all of our other author of the week books, of course, at ABC Books on North Glenstone. For Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Anytime. As we head our way into the latest traffic updates, reminder that for all of your full spectrum, anything and everything you could possibly need RV-wise, Wilder RV. Free on-site sewer dump, propane bottle fill, huge selection of parts from hard parts like slide-out motors, appliance parts, hitches, accessories like screen doors, protectors, entry steps, backup cameras, even patio mats. I mean, all these things that you might think, wow, they won't have that. Odds are they do. One of the great things also about Wilder RV is you get a little shopping spree whenever you make that RV purchase. I'll give you a couple $100 or so to do a little fun shopping spree to accessorize the thing if you'd like. Wilder RV, Clint, Missouri, north of Springfield on 13. You can find more information under Nick's endorsements, ksgf.com or wilderrv.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 56. For your Friday, we do have a 50% chance of showers in the afternoon, and then mostly cloudy skies with a high near 71. And on Saturday, mostly cloudy with a high near 75.
You know, every time there is an oopsie daisies that gets caught, it tends to be an oopsie daisy that benefits the left, benefits the Democrats. Like anytime something gets removed or banned or blocked on social media, and they're like, we had some new person working this, or you know what, it was a glitch in the algorithm. It's always something that is beneficial to Democrats, beneficial to Biden, beneficial to Harris, and detrimental to Trump. It's just amazing how the quarter always lands when flipped on the exact same side every single time. And in fact, there was a story, let's see if I have it here, where I guess Coca-Cola, you could customize, let me see if I have this stupid story. You could, it's not really the overriding point, but it's a more benign situation. Here we go. Coke faces boycott over not allowing Trump 2024 or Jesus on cans, facing a boycott while people attempting to personalize cans with messages such as Trump 2024 or Jesus loves you have received messages stating that the name is not approved. Other messages such as Harris Waltz 2024, Satan and Allah were reportedly allowed, according to the Daily Mail. Messages supporting Vice President Harris, Satan, and Allah were reportedly allowed prior to the company fixing a glitch, according to the outlet. So I guess you could, I don't know, customize your can somehow. I don't know the exact process. But what was occurring is a standard sort of thing. There was I forget which NFL stadium, a couple weeks ago, made headlines because a lady, I think it was in Arizona, Cardinals, gal going in to watch the game, had a MAGA hat on, told she had to throw it away in order to go in. Well, it was a mistake, of course. But these mistakes always are to the detriment of Trump supporters. They're always a mistake to the detriment of Christians. I mean, how many times can a glitch or a misunderstanding occur where it's always one-sided? We see this when it comes to voting. Every time there is some sort of accident or mistake or ballots are found, which side is it always? Every single time it always benefits the Democrats. That being said, a couple of stories here. Oregon. Mistakenly, oopsie daisies, registered nearly 1,260 possible non-citizens to vote, DMV admits. Oregon officials admitted the oopsie daisies with the state's automatic voter enrollment problem was larger than previously thought. So in other words, they got caught, like, oh, it's a small problem. And then it turns out that it was a bigger problem than they originally claimed. And who knows how much of a bigger problem it actually is, and it's being reported now. The reason this was caught because a number of the individuals who are not U.S. citizens, not legally allowed to vote, showed up in order to vote, and that's how this ended up getting caught. But, of course, we know who this benefits. The DMV and Secretary of State's office in Oregon have said a complete review showing that 1,259 people who did not provide any proof of U.S. citizenship were added to Oregon's voter rolls, a number 4 times than previously reported. But they stressed, well, no one's received a ballot for the 2024 election. So nothing to see here, nothing to worry here. But once again, it was just an accident. It was just a mistake. Here's another oopsie daisy. Republican Representative Tom Tiffany in Wisconsin, it's a swing state, revealed that thousands of duplicate absentee ballots containing no barcode on them after officials in Madison said the duplicate ballots had the barcodes. So here's what happened. And Madison, by the way, it's the Berkeley of the Midwest. It is extreme leftist. So in Wisconsin, if people are allowed to vote twice, having Madison be that part of Wisconsin is going to overwhelmingly help Kamala Harris. And what was discovered is that there were more than 2,000 duplicate ballots that had been sent out to several different wards. And the city officials at the Madison clerk's office said, "Oh well, but they're barcoded. So here's what'll happen. If somebody tries to vote twice, when we scan the barcode, it'll show that they already voted, so you don't have to worry about it." Well, that turned out to be a lie. None of the duplicate ballots had a barcode on them. So yet, once again, it's another, nothing to see here. It's just a simple mistake. It was a goof. It was a glitch. It was human error, in which the human error overwhelmingly benefits Kamala Harris. I mean, are there any of these accidents that would benefit Donald Trump? Of course, if there were, we would be told that it is voter fraud and Donald Trump is trying to rig the elections. Red State has a story noting the people handling mail-in ballots declare Trump an existential threat. What could possibly go wrong? They note, the closer we get to Election Day, and as Kamala's poll numbers get worse, the left is getting more and more desperate to try to stop Trump from being reelected in any way they can, including trying to kill him. The current most popular form of that desperation comes in the not-so-veiled calls by even Biden-Harris cabinet members for harm to come to Trump, so forth. In the crucial swing state of Georgia, individual letter carriers who are members of the National Association of Letter Carriers Union received a letter that appears to be signed by Georgia NALC President Don Griggs, which says in part, quote, "If Donald Trump wins the upcoming election, it could prove an existential threat to our union and our contract. Your vote matters. Consider how the consequences could affect you, your job, and our union when deciding how to vote." So the people who are responsible for handling votes, mail-in votes, are being told, if Donald Trump is elected president, you're probably going to lose your job. You need to think about that as you go about your day. Now, some may say, well, but they couldn't, how are they going to know which ballots are for whom? They wouldn't be able to pick them out. That's not how it works. Here's how it works. It is easily known and recognizable what areas vote heavily Republican. And those are the areas, if you are, in fact, going to trash ballots, throw them away, get rid of them, those are the areas you would do it. Because while, yes, there are going to be some Kamala Harris ballots in there, overwhelmingly there's going to be Trump ballots in there. And so the areas, this is how it works. The areas like Madison, Wisconsin, in which there are disproportionately high number of Kamala Harris voters, you send out duplicate ballots, all missing barcodes, so they can't be checked against other ballots to see whether or not that person actually voted. But if you want to get rid of ballots, you make sure that the postal carriers know, by the way, if Trump wins, you could lose your job. He's an existential threat to your job, to this country, and if you happen to service an area that you know is disproportionately red and likely to vote for Trump, then you just happen to maybe misplace the ballots. But of course, we're told there's nothing to see here. There's none of this is evidence whatsoever. Illegals getting registered to vote, illegals showing up to vote, people getting duplicate ballots in heavily Kamala Harris supporting areas. None of that is evidence that this election might be anything other than the most secure election ever in the history of the country. And to say otherwise makes you a domestic terrorist. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. There's another one. CNN admits to an error in using digitally altered photos of Trump and Laura Loomer. Now, Laura Loomer is a right-wing activist. I know who she is. I don't follow her, so I can't speak to... I just don't know much about her other than who she is. But I do know that she is seen or portrayed by the media as an individual that discredits the Republicans, that she's a lunatic, she's crazy. I don't know if she is or not. That doesn't really matter to the media. This is just, the way they want to portray her. So in their minds, associating her with Donald Trump is damaging to Trump. And they had posted an image of Trump and Laura Loomer apparently together, but it wasn't real. It was fake, digitally altered, and it was an error. Quote, Friday evening and on Saturday, CNN aired a number of segments that briefly showed an image of former President Donald Trump and Laura Loomer taken from social media, the CNN host said. On review, this image has been digitally altered by a third party and should not have been included. We regret the error. Yet another error that is, at least through their perspective, would be damaging to Donald Trump. Isn't it amazing that you would think they would check these things before they go to air with them? What standards are there at an outlet like CNN? You wait until you find out that something isn't real, and then, oh, golly gee, we should have checked on that. But again, it is the consistency of the failure to fact-check things that go to, and they know what they're doing. They fully know. It is impossible to believe that the media can consistently, erroneously make so many mistakes that make Donald Trump look bad, that spread disinformation about Donald Trump that is negative. They fully know. They must know that they're putting out fake news, but then they just wait for the reaction and then, oh, oops, it was an accident. It was an oopsie daisy. Sorry about that. After the damage is done. Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign 2 weeks now after she has twice claimed that she owns a gun and that she will shoot anyone who comes into her house, killing them, has yet to answer any questions as to what kind of gun, where she's licensed, where she purchased it, when was the last time she practiced as a responsible gun owner at a firing range. These are questions Fox News has sent to the campaign, and they're silent on this. And we all know why, because she's a liar. Does she have, she may have a firearm that, was given to her at some point. If she does, I suspect it's put away somewhere. It's nothing that she ever probably even thinks about or plans on using. This, of course, is presumably a lie that she is told that is supposed to make you believe that she respects your right to protect yourself. That's the argument. Hey, you can trust me. I own a gun. And as I've noted, if there's anything that the Democrat Party has demonstrated, they are hypocrites when it comes to what they believe you should be able to do versus what they do. We saw that on full display with COVID. Whether it's Nancy Pelosi going to get her hair done at some salon that the government shut down, Gavin Newsom unmasked in a close proximity to other people at a restaurant while average citizens are told they can't do that. So the hilarious nature of the Harris campaign claiming that because they say she has a gun, that means that she believes in your right to have one as well. They defy that through their actions all the time. Springfield's Talk 104.1 streaming live at KSGF.com. You can also download the app if you'd like to. It's a great way to be able to easily text the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. All you got to do is hit a little button. You don't even have to remember 447 KSGF when you have that app downloaded. Sharing this story earlier about the Georgia NALC president. This is the National Association of Letter Carriers, and had sent out a letter apparently to mail carriers who will be responsible for delivering absentee ballots, telling them that if Donald Trump wins the upcoming election, it could prove an existential threat to our union and our contract. Your vote matters. Consider how the consequences could affect you, your job, and our union when deciding how to vote. You know what I think would be a good idea? And I believe this. I think people who run companies should send out memos to their employees explaining the implications of the candidates and what their plans would mean for the company and for those individual jobs. I think that it is almost the responsibility, if you care about your employees, to let them know what's coming around the pike. If Kamala Harris gets elected president and raises taxes in the way that she says that she is going to, what does that mean for your employees? Do they not deserve the right to know that? Now, I can tell you how this will play out. The minute that a business starts explaining to the employees, listen, if Trump gets elected and our taxes are cut, this is what it means. If Kamala Harris is elected president and our taxes increase, this is what it means. Then you would have the left and the media pitching a fit about how these business owners are intimidating their employees, that this is probably, try to figure out a way to portray it as some sort of violation of civil rights, and how awful and bullying and intimidating they are. And this is just, exactly what it is that Trump wants, this sort of fascist environment in which employees are afraid to vote for whom they want. That's exactly how they portray it. Now, when you have the head of a union telling postal carriers, if Trump gets elected president, then, life as we know it is going to come to an end. Well, that's just simply that union leader doing his job. That's what he's supposed to do. Is it not the responsibility of a business owner to allow employees to know ahead of time what their vote could mean? If anything, so that they can prepare. I mean, if you are in a job And, of course, this is going to depend on the industry. I mean, some industries, either which way, they may think, well, we'll probably be fine. But there are obviously some industries that no. The automobile industry is clearly one of them. So many of these blue-collar jobs. This is why, despite what the union leaders are saying, because they ultimately are representing the Democrats, the union employees, a lot of them know, which is why they're overwhelmingly saying that they support Donald Trump for president. So there's some industries that it is make it or break it in this country, depending on whether Kamala Harris gets into the presidency or Donald Trump. And arguably, it's pretty crappy if you run a company and you know for a fact that if Kamala Harris gets elected president and she is successful in implementing her economic plans, that you know we're going to have to cut 20% of our workforce in order to survive, to not give a heads up to those employees and let them know you will need to start looking for a new job. Because this is the reality of what we're looking at. Can't guarantee it, but you just need to be prepared. See you tomorrow for Heroes Breakfast at Scramblers. Glenn Beck's next.